Hello and welcome. Today we've got Clayton Thomas. And today we are going to be discussing the spiritual ascension and the veil is being lifted. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview. Unless, of course, myself and Clayton can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Clayton, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you and what are you up to in that beautiful, lovely, hot weather you're in?
Hey, this is not a green screen behind me. I get to do an interview from the backyard. So, it's 95 degrees, about 100 degrees on the heat index. It's a good chance to be outside and get out of the air conditioning that's a little bit toxic at times as well. So, it's been interesting, right? Because the news is starting to get hot, right? There's a bunch of stuff that's starting to take place. People are starting to wake up a little more.
Absolutely. Now you're outside. Now I've seen a few videos and I was speaking to my brother's girlfriend's friend and she said that she saw something in the sky that looked like to be another planet and then it just disappeared. And now she believes in extraterrestrials, and before she didn't. She thinks that something is going on up there. Now, does that mean the veil is lifting? Are we moving into a different dimension, the fifth dimension, where we will be able to start seeing things? You're outside. I mean, are you seeing things, anything in the sky?
It's the interesting part because the alignment of Sirius along with the sun and Earth, allegedly what they're stating. I mean, do we really know anymore exactly what we're looking at when we look up? But the fun part is understanding the development of our species and where we are, where we're to become, what we're capable of becoming. Because we talk about ascension, but what we have failed to look at is the fall, right? Is we look at what we are as saying, oh, we have to ascend. I think what we're forgetting is it's not an ascension. It's actually a reclamation project of getting back to what we were made to be and what we were and what we have been, and actually removing and eliminating what has hindered our capabilities. So when you do look up and whether you're looking at celestial beings or you're looking at history, like Christina and I just did a 3-week tour throughout Europe, and you look at the infrastructure. One of the most amazing things, I love ancient architecture, and being in Rome and walking through the city after dinner and just happening to walk up on the Pantheon. And you look at this architectural megastructure that can't be made today. We don't have the technological capability. We don't even have the materials in order to recreate what that building was or what it is, because it's still standing. And when you think about where we've come from and why we would have something that was built 2,000 years ago that has doors that are 35 feet tall, and that are still the original doors. And you think of who was around that was that big back then. They didn't just do it so 5 foot tall people could walk through really big structures. There had to be a lot more to it. But knowing where we've come from, what we're capable of, and where we're supposed to be. And I think that's been the fun part over the last 2 years that we've seen, is the ascension of humanity comes not from just the spiritual component, because we are this amazing, energetic, spiritual, and physical being, and they're all interconnected. Just like your computer operating system has the hardware, has the software, but then you also now have the connection to the internet and the Internet of Things, or as the great Al Gore said, the information superhighway, which is what we have the connection to as well because of what our source is. And it's funny when you look back at the terminology, you think, wow, we were actually given these same tools, but we are the computer. And in order to do that, you've got to defrag your operating system. So you've got to get the bad stuff out, the heavy metals, the graphene, you can say the mRNA viral fragments, not something just of the last 2 years, but we've been exposed to stuff for centuries that are part of us. The mold, and with mold, I can say fungus because fungus is actually mold, but it's an incorporation of all of it. And you have all of these different toxins, you can say, that are polluting us, that inhibit us from being what we're capable of becoming, that keep our gut, our heart, our brains from aligning properly through your vagus nerve, right? Your chakras don't work. Your meridians don't work. Your brain doesn't work, right? People can't think clearly anymore. Rational thought's gone out the door, right? People are so programmed and so easily manipulated that even those that are somewhat aware of what's going on, they immediately jump back into the narrative as soon as the media changes the story. And they don't even realize they're doing it, but it's part of the programming. And the only way you can get out of that is not through turning off the TV. It's not through turning off the programming. It's through the removal of what's in you. And when you look at mercury, you look at lead, you look at aluminum for what they are as neurotoxins, you look at gravity for what it's done. And this just saying gravity is not a conversation of the last 2 years. They've been putting it in drugs and in stuff for over 20. How do I know that? Because Dr. Christina Rahm was working on a lot of that stuff when she was in biotech and pharma. She's like, yeah, they've done that for a long time. They just didn't tell anybody. And we, from a societal standpoint, hadn't progressed to enough of a level of toxicity where they were ready to put in the final solution. And this is where people want to talk about 5G, right? On how bad 5G is.
We have to be careful with that word, yeah? We have to be careful with those kind of words, Thomas.
Well,
Clayton.
I'll watch that. So 5G for my phone is great, right? It's a really fast signal. The problem is the programming, those things are not the issues. You're the problem. The fact that we are so polluted, we're so loaded with negative antennas, right? And this is where everything that is the conversation of the last 2 years, they're putting more antennas in you. I was watching an interview or a piece yesterday, I guess that Tucker Carlson did, talking about SSRIs in the water. Like, that's been going on for decades as well, because they've been putting SSRIs in people. People go pee, they piss out the SSRIs, goes back into the water supply, gets recirculated, it's not filtered out. And if you're in a municipality of a lot of people that are highly medicated, you're getting those medications in your water supply. I mean, we talk about the Matrix so much, but if you watch The Dark Knight, right, the original Christian Bale Batman movie, what were they doing? They were putting stuff in the water supply, just like fluoride. So if you can't do stuff to get all of those things out, if you can't clean your slate, and this is where, our foundation with Root really came to be, of having the solutions that not only can safely, effectively, and passively remove all of these environmental toxins, no matter your age. You could be still in the womb. You can be a newborn baby. You can be a 90-year-old geriatric or anything in between. You can safely, very, very passively, and systemically from head to toes begin to remove all of that stuff. And at the same time, start to deliver the key trace minerals, the key bioavailable silica that's needed in order to upgrade your operating system and develop your new operating system at the same time that you're doing your virus removal out of your own operating system, right? And that's how you can look at viral fragments, and you can look at the heavy metals the same way as far as defragging your operating system. So if you're one that is watching what's going on and you're seeing stuff in the sky, if you understand what's been going on in Switzerland, it's crazy, because we were in Switzerland for a couple of days. We're in Zurich, and just the same way that I felt when we landed in Rome, And we stayed in a hotel that was right across the street from the Vatican. And you want to talk about the feeling of darkness. It was really unique. But even going into Zurich, you could feel this weight on you spiritually. And I told Christina, she's like, why do I feel that way? I'm like, because CERN's not too far away. And this is kind of the heart of the beast, where they store all their money and where they're doing stuff. And she was like, what's CERN? I'm like, oh, come on. And I saw some, a couple stories, what was it, a month or so ago, maybe a couple months ago, that the white hats have probably been in control of CERN. And, when you look at the fear that people have, I think this is what's important to understand through all of this, is you're being fed information to build fear in you in many different aspects. It could be, what's in the environment, what's being injected into people, what's in the food, what's in the water, what the evil aspects are doing from child trafficking, what they're doing, to open black holes, and, whether it's through Project Looking Glass with what they're trying to do, which all of that's been countered, and you've done a great job of posting some of that to show that, it's actually not a fear. It's part of the process of, good and light winning. You have to understand that we are light. We are the final solution. They're trying to control us. And in order for you to be best suited, right? Because one of the things in a very popular book that people read says you have to put on your armor of God, right? That if you're properly suited, then you're ready to serve. But if you're not properly suited, you're a sheep, and you're easily victimized through advanced programming, which they're really good at. You have to take down all of that stuff, much like people want to take down radio frequency towers, right? They're like, okay, if we knock these out, we're going to solve the problem. Well, in a way, yes. But if you're going to take down the radio frequency towers, you don't need to take down the ones that are being built around you. You need to take out the ones that are inside you. Because if you don't ever address those, you're susceptible to anything, because they have freaking satellites.
Absolutely. But, we're moving into a time now, into a different dimension, especially when we're looking at CERN. We're looking at, all these different portals, the veils being lifted. What do you think we need to be doing to help us with the ascension and to open up the pineal gland? And do you think that your solutions will help us also remember our past lives?
It's really interesting. The past life stuff takes a little work, but yes. And when we talk about decalcifying the pineal gland, there's a couple components that are really important to understand in the process, because you hear, or you've heard people talk about, oh, you have to decalcify your pineal gland because it's the light center. Yes, that is fact. Light center of the brain. Spiritually, it connects us to our source. It's the light center of the brain for your circadian rhythm. But there's a little secret. As it controls your circadian rhythm, it's also the conversion location for a lot of your neurotransmitters. It's what converts serotonin to melatonin. It's what converts serotonin to DMT. It's not just the decalcification of your pineal gland. This is where the Trinity is so important, right? So you have clean slate for removing everything. Then you have restore, which is designed to kill off a bunch of the mold, the fungus, reset your gut, your operating system. And then zero in is really the secret weapon to this, which is I would encourage everyone to actually try the way I use it after a little bit of time of getting acclimated, because neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin, 95% of them are produced in the gut. You've got to be able to feed your gut properly what it needs to produce them, because the stressful environment that we're in, our diet, our lifestyles inhibit dopamine and serotonin production. They don't encourage it. So if you can boost, if you can optimize and maximize the endogenous creation, natural creation of dopamine and serotonin, and then do it adaptogenically, meaning your intention controls how much dopamine, how much serotonin you want during the day, during the evening, based on what you want to do. So during the day, you're going to have more dopamine. You're going to crush it. You're going to feel amazing. You're not going to get stressed. But at night, or maybe if it's time to do some meditation, or you want to get out and relax, you're going to have more serotonin than dopamine. And
Absolutely.
Then when it's time to sleep, and this is where the understanding and the identification of our past lives and what we really are come in. So you hear people talk about the importance of lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is only capable through proper levels of dopamine and serotonin and a decalcified pineal gland. So zero in boosts that dopamine and serotonin. If you haven't tried to zero in before you go to bed, like one before you go to bed, watch what happens. But you have to go to bed with the intention that you're going to sleep. Because if you think about working, you're going to work. But if you go to bed with the intention of going to sleep, that serotonin that is produced is going to go to your pineal gland and produce melatonin. The extra serotonin is going to convert to DMT. So you're going to dream like crazy. And then in the morning, you're going to get a dopamine kick and you're going to wake up and you're going to feel refreshed, alert, outstanding. That's what's important, because you can't talk about one little subject without understanding that the entire operating system is connected, right? So many people say, oh, I want to do this one thing. Okay, to do that one thing, there are other steps, right? You can't look at your laptop and say, I want to run this program, so I'm going to hit one button. No, because there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into that. When you open Zoom, right, and you click on the Zoom icon, so you can watch a video or you can participate in something. We don't apply what all is taking place from the click of that button through the rest of the operating system. The amount of communication that goes on, it says, okay, open up the microphone, open up the screen, do this, run all these things. And when we look at it, we're like, oh, it's there. So we've been programmed to think much like we've been programmed to think if you take one supplement, it's going to help you with a bunch of stuff. That's all bullshit, right? It's all programming. And they do that in order to get you to buy one thing, and you got to buy another thing, and you got to buy another thing. And the synergy of those supplements is never connected, because you don't know the quality. You don't know the quantity. You don't know how the quantity of one supplement actually corresponds to something else that you're taking. You don't know if you're counteracting one thing, if you're neutralizing it, if you're enhancing it. You have no clue. So it's important to work with things that are designed to work with your entire operating system. And here's a little secret. If you're taking supplements today, which you should, you better be taking something that's done by a bioscience engineer, right? Because if you're not using the highest levels of science, if you're not using nanotechnology and bioscience engineering to make stuff from nature in today's world, all you're doing is trying to sell shit for money. And that's flawed, because we're past that now. And I think that's the beautiful part of what you're doing, and so many of our collaborating influencers have found, is that getting past the bullshit and just saying, okay, you know what? Let's be outcomes based. Let's make sure that as humanity, we're improving and we're getting better.
Absolutely. And I give so much credit to you and also to Dr. Christina Ram, who's made these products available. So I will gladly leave the link below, the clean slate links below, so that people can have a look. I have to also say that I've been taking it myself and I feel fantastic. It's taken about a month or so, but I feel absolutely fantastic taking it. And people are like, Nicholas looks different, or he looks younger, or he looks, something's happened. It's because I feel great taking these clean slate products. I actually feel that I'm sleeping better. I'm dreaming better. My dopamine levels are much higher. And I really do vouch what you've done. And Dr. Christina Ram, I'll give her so much credit. She's somebody that's exposed Fauci. She's worked in the lines with him. She's an executive pharmaceutical. And I'm honored to have interviewed her and yourself, who are here for the truth and here to reverse the bad stuff that the deep state have done to us. So thank you so, so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
I think it's important to understand that like this, with our connections and everybody that follows you, that it's an expansion of family, right? It's friendships, it's family. and knowing that through that, we do everything we can as humans to take care of our family, right? That's, if you ask people, what are the top 3 things that matter to you in life? Family is usually one of the top 3. But family's not just blood. And so you really have to understand, like, where everything we're doing with Root, but also in collaboration, because your family, our community, it's all family. We're not going to do anything that does harm to our family. We're not going to try to screw over our family. It's like with the death last week, or was it earlier this week, or no, last week, of Dr. Zelenko, right? It really pissed me off because it wasn't a good death, right? And for 4 years, he'd been dealing with cancer. And there are people that knew him well that also know me, yet they never connected us. There are people that knew him that knew Christina, yet they never connected us. And I think that's the important part of where we sit, of understanding your influence. Each one of us, everyone here, not just Nicholas, because he's got, 100 million followers now, because he's amazing. I have 6. But each one of us is of great influence. You don't understand how impactful your influence is until you let it loose and you apply it. And that's one thing that I encourage everyone to do. Whether you collaborate with us, you become a Root customer or an ambassador eventually if you share with your friends, or whatever you do, as a human, find things that are of value and put them to work, not just for yourself, but for those around you.
Well, thank you very much, Clayton, and we'll catch up very soon. In regards to Dr. Christina Rahm, and we'll speak soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, brother.